It's week 14. For some of us, it's winning in. We're playing for positional seeding in the playoffs. If you've clinched your first round bye, let me know in the comments down below. But if you have a playoff berth to clinch, you have to stick around and watch this video because I'm going to go over the best players we must be starting and the best matchups around the league to make sure that we are absolutely setting the best lineups. I know in the past couple weeks, these videos and these starts, some of them have not been delivering, but I promise. Why is my mom calling me? Hey, Mom. Yes. This is Turtle from Outlier Fantasy. Yes, I understand. I have not... Yes, please let me finish. I know I haven't done a good job of making start and sits over the last couple weeks. But I'm literally just about to Yes, I know. I know, Mom. I know. You can't throw me out of the house for making bad videos every week. All right, fine. I'll make a good video then. Goodbye. Mothers. Back to what I was saying. I am going to absolutely deliver this week with the best matchups and players we must be starting this week. Roll the intro. The first player that must be started this week in fantasy for us is none other than DeAndre Swift of the Chicago Bears. And he has a great matchup coming up against the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers offense looking as inconsistent as it has over the last couple of weeks. I know we could throw away the game where they played in the snow in Buffalo. I'm not too concerned about that. But San Francisco can't stop the run. They're actually the 24th team in least fantasy points allowed to the running back position. The Bears are also trending in the right direction. This may have seemed in week 3 that this would be a bad matchup for Caleb Williams and the Bears offense, but given the circumstances that we have now, we can understand that this could be a great matchup for the Bears and your fantasy players involved. So we must start DeAndre Swift this week. In terms of running back rooms and running back matchups that we should be considering this week, let's shift our focus to the Tennessee Titans, where both Tony Pollard and Tyjae Spears could be really good starts this week. We know Tony Pollard, especially given the week 14 bye week nature and how many players that are on a bye that could have been in your lineups. Tony Pollard is obviously must start. But Tyjae Spears is also a good play this week if you need a bye week fill-in or if injuries got to you. The Tennessee Titans are playing the Jacksonville Jaguars, who give up the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing running backs this season. So not only is Tony Pollard a great play, but if you need to, you can play Tyjae Spears as well this week. This is a great matchup for the Tennessee running backs. Moving on to the next group that we should consider, a very similar situation just like we talked about with the Tennessee Titans. We have both Giants running backs, Tyrone Tracy and Devin Singletary, have great matchups this weekend. And very similar to Tony Pollard, we know Tyrone Tracy is a must-start player. We're not saying that he isn't, but with Devin Singletary increasing his complementary role and actually going from just a guy on the depth chart to having a small little role to go along with Tyrone Tracy, Devin Singletary also finds himself as a quality start this weekend. Like I just stated, Devin Singletary's role has increased over the last couple of weeks, which is great to see. And not to mention, the New Orleans Saints, the team they're going up against, gives up the 4th most fantasy points to opposing running backs. So if you have either one of these running backs, if you didn't feel that good about playing them, you have injuries, you have bye week fill-ins, you can start both of these guys. Now let's focus on wide receivers that have great matchups this weekend. We're going to start right away with the Vegas Raiders, and we're going to talk about Jacoby Myers and Trey Tucker as great starts this week if you have them. Jacoby Myers must be played. We already knew that. But Trey Tucker, if you need him, is a quality spot start. And what makes both of these players so enticing in week 14 is that Tampa Bay gives up the most fantasy points allowed to opposing wide receivers. So if you have either one of these guys, you could feel good about how they just played against Kansas City. They definitely have a little bit of a confidence boost. You can play both of these Vegas Raiders wide receivers if you need to. Now let's talk about the next matchup that we should be taking advantage of. That's both Titans receivers Calvin Ridley and Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, who are going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And just like we spoke about how good of a matchup it was for the running backs, it's just as good as a matchup for the wide receivers. Jacksonville cannot stop anybody, and they're the gift that keeps on giving if you're playing against them in fantasy. Jacksonville allows the 4th most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers, even though Calvin Ridley was already considered a must-start. Nick Westbrook-ikhine is upgraded in this matchup, and you can definitely play him with confidence if you need him. You may be missing out on your top dog Terry McLaurin. You might be missing out on a guy like Zay Flowers because of bye weeks. But don't worry, we have plenty of options to get you through the week. And finally, the must-start wide receiver this week is Jordan Addison of the Minnesota Vikings. If you have Jordan Addison on your roster, you don't need me to tell you this. It's been a very volatile season. Some weeks are 132 receiving yards. Some weeks are 9 fantasy points. It just is what it is with him. But this week against the Falcons give up the 2nd most fantasy points allowed to opposing wide receivers. It would be foolish of me to say, you must start Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, because you were playing Justin Jefferson anyway. Let's just call a spade a spade. But given this great matchup, Jordan Addison must be inside your lineups this week, even if it means he might score 8 points or less in fantasy, which he's done about 4 out of the 10 games he's played this season. Now, finally, let's talk about some quarterbacks. We just spoke about the wide receiver that must be started, so let's talk about Sam Darnold, who has a great matchup this week against the Falcons. Sam Darnold went back to what we thought Sam Darnold would be, and then he came back and started playing quality games again, and this against a struggling Falcons team is a great matchup, and not to mention, the Falcons give up the 5th most fantasy points allowed to opposing quarterbacks. This is going to be as fantasy friendly as it could get if you needed a bye week fill-in at quarterback. Maybe you're missing out on Jaden Daniels. Maybe you're missing out on Lamar Jackson. Maybe you're even missing out on Bo Nix. But I got you covered with a Sam Darnold spot start this week. And just like we talked about the Vikings wide receiver and how we need to start the Vikings quarterback, let's go back and talk about how we must start Will Levis, the Tennessee Titans quarterback, this week. All Titans players need to be upgraded for this week. They cannot stop anybody, and I have full trust that the Mayo man is going to deliver this weekend if you need a spot start at quarterback. There's a good chance that maybe Sam Darnold was already taken or on somebody's bench, but there's an even better chance that Will Levis is floating around on your waiver wire claims, and you could pick him up with no cost whatsoever. We've already went into detail on why the running backs have a great matchup, why the wide receivers have a great matchup, and Will Levis has a great matchup too. So if you need to, stack the Tennessee Titans wide receivers and their quarterback, because Will Levis has been balling lately. And with a good matchup like the Jacksonville Jaguars in front of him, he's going to smash this week. So those are the matchups we need to be looking forward to and taking advantage of in Week 14. And I even sprinkled in some must-start players in there as well, like Jordan Addison and DeAndre Swift as well, for those that, maybe tinkering in their lineup, even with the bye week fill-ins. I don't know if the video is going to go out tomorrow or Friday. I am looking to make another video this week where we cover all the great playoff matchups that we need, because some of you are probably sitting pretty. You probably took the week off. Maybe you're going to go take a little vacation because you don't have to set a lineup. That's cool, but that's not me. I'm going to make sure that we know what matchups we need to be taking advantage of for the playoffs. Doesn't matter if it's wide receiver, tight end, quarterback, hell, even kicker and defense. I'm going to have it all laid out for us. So if you're not subscribed already, make sure you subscribe down below. You're not going to want to miss that video because I'm going to prime every single one of you for the playoffs this year. And if you want that video ASAP, you want that video tomorrow, you want that video as soon as possible, make sure you smash that like button so I know to go in the lab and put in that work. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and sticking around to the end of this video. I truly appreciate it. It means the world to a guy like me. Such a wonderful group of support from each and every one of you. It truly means everything to me, and I can't be thankful enough for that. But thank you so much for watching. My name is Turtle. This is Outlier Fantasy, and I will see you in the next video.